Lieh Tzu by Chuang Tzu. When Lieh Tzu went to Qi, halfway there he turned round and came back. Falling in with Po Hun Wu Jen, the latter said, "How's it you are so soon back again?" "I was afraid," replied Lieh Tzu. "Afraid of what?" asked Po Hun Wu Jen. "Out of 10 restaurants at which I ate," said Lieh Tzu, "5 would take no payment." "And what is there to be afraid of in that?" inquired Po Hun Wu Jen. "The truth within it not being duly assimilated," replied Lieh Tzu. "A certain brightness is visible externally, and to conquer men's hearts by force on the external is to induce in oneself in a disregard for authority and age which is the precursor of trouble. A restaurant keeper is one who lives by retailing soup. When his returns are counted up, his profit is but small, and his influence is next to nothing. But if such a man could act thus, how much more the ruler of a large estate? His bodily powers worn out in the duties of his position, his mental powers exhausted by details of administration, he would entrust me with the government and stimulate me by reward. That is what I was afraid of." "Your inner lights are good," replied Po Hun Wu Jen, "but if you remain stationary at this point, the world will still gather around you." Shortly afterwards, Po Hun Wu Jen went to visit Lieh Tzu, and lo, his courtyard was filled with booths. Po Hun Wu Jen stood there while, facing the north, his cheek all wrinkled by resting it on his staff. Then without a word he departed. Upon this being announced to Lieh Tzu, he seized his shoes and ran out barefoot. When he reached the outer gate he called aloud, "Master, now that you have come, will you not give me medicine?" "It is all over," cried Po Hun Wu Jen. "I told you that the world would gather around you. It is not that you can make people gather around you. You cannot prevent them from doing so. Of what use would my instruction be? Exerting influence thus unduly over others, you are by them influenced in turn. You disturb your natural constitution and are of no further account. None of your companions warn you of this. Their paltry talk is but poison to a man. They are not awake, not alive to the situation. How should one of these help you? The shrewd grow weary, the wise grieve. Those who are without abilities have no ambitions. With full bellies they roam happily about, like drifting boats, not caring whither they are bound. There was a man of the Cheng state named Huan. He pursued his studies at a place called Shiushi. After 3 years only he had graduated as a Confucianist, and like a river which fertilizes its banks to a distance of 9 li, so did his good influence reach into 3 families. He caused his younger brother to graduate as a Mihist, but inasmuch as in the question of Confucianism versus Mihism, the father took the side of a Mihist, at the end of 10 years Huan committed suicide. Then the father dreamt that Huan appeared to him and said, "It was I who caused your son to become a Mihist. Why give you all the credit to him who is but as the fruit of an autumn pine?" Verily, God does not reward man for what he does, but for what he is. And it was in this sense that the younger brother was caused to become a Mihist. Whereas a man who should regard his distinctive abilities as of his own making, without reference to his parents, would be like the man of Shi, who dug a well and then wanted to keep others away from it. Hence the saying that the men of today are all Huans. Therefore it follows that men of true virtue are unconscious of its possession. How much more than the men of Tao? This is what the ancients called escaping the vengeance of God. The true sage rests in that which gives rest and not in that which does not give rest. The world rests in that which does not give rest and that in that which does give rest. Chuang Tzu said, "To know Tao is easy. The difficulty lies in the elimination of speech. To know Tao without speech appertains to the natural. To know Tao with speech appertains to the artificial. The men of old were natural, not artificial. Chu Pingman spent a large patrimony in learning under Chi Li how to kill dragons. By the end of 3 years he was perfect, but there was no direction in which he could show his skill. The true sage regards certainties as uncertainties, wherefore he is never up in arms. Men in general regard uncertainties as certainties, wherefore they are constantly up in arms. To accustom oneself to arms causes one to fly to arms on every provocation, and to trust to arms is to perish. The intelligence of a mean man does not rise beyond bribes and letters of recommendation. His mind is beclouded with trivialities, yet he would penetrate the mystery of Tao and of creation and rise to participation in the One. The result is that he is confounded by time and space, and that, tremulous by objective existence, he fails to reach apprehension of that age before anything was. But the perfect man, he carries his mind back to the period before the beginning, content to rest in the oblivion of nowhere. Passing away like flowing water, he is merged in the clear depths of the infinite. Alas, man's knowledge reaches to the hair on a hair, but not to eternal peace. A man of the Sung state named Cao Shang acted as political agent for the Prince of Sung at the court of Xian state. When he went thither, he had a few carriages, but the Prince of Xian was so pleased with him that he added 100 more. On his return to Sung, he visited Chuang Tzu and said, "As for living in poverty in a dirty hovel, earning a scanty subsistence by making sandals with a shriveled face and yellow ears, this I could not do. Interviewing a powerful ruler with a retinue of 100 carriages, that is my forte." "When the Prince of Xian is sick," replied Chuang Tzu, "and he summons his physician to open a boil or cleanse an ulcer, the latter gets 1 carriage. The man who licks his piles gets 5. The more degrading the work, the greater the number of carriages given. You, sir, must have been attending to his piles to get so many carriages. Begone with you." Duke Ai of Lu asked Yen Ho, saying, "Were I to make Confucius a pillar of my realm, would the state be profited thereby?" "It would be most perilous," replied Yen Ho. "Confucius is a man of outward show and of spacious words. He mistakes the branch for the root. He seeks to impress the people by an overbearing demeanor, the hollowness of which he does not perceive. If he suits you, and you entrust him with the welfare of the state, it will only be by mistake that he will succeed. To cause the people to leave the true and study the false does not so much affect the people of today as those of coming generations. Wherefore it is better not to have Confucius. The difficulty of governing lies in the inability to practice self-effacement. Man does not govern as God does. Merchants and traders are altogether out of the pale, or if chance ever brings them within it, their rights are never freely admitted. External punishments are inflicted by metal and wood. Internal punishments are inflicted by anxiety and remorse. Fools who incur external punishment are treated with metal or wood. Those who incur internal punishment are devoured by the conflict of emotions. It is only the pure and perfect man who can succeed in avoiding both. Confucius said, "The heart of man is more dangerous than mountains and rivers, more difficult to understand than heaven itself. Heaven has its period of spring, summer, autumn, winter, daytime, and night. Man has an impenetrable exterior, and his motives are inscrutable. Thus some men appear to be retiring when they are really formed. Others have abilities, yet appear to be worthless. Others are compliant, yet gain their ends. Others take a firm stand, yet yield the point. Others go slow, yet advance quickly. Those who fly to duty towards their neighbor as though thirsting after it, drop it after though something hot. Thus the loyalty of a superior man is tested by employing him at a distance, his respectfulness by employing him near at hand, his ability by troublesome missions, his knowledge by unexpected questions, his trustworthiness by specification of time limits, his integrity by entrusting him with money, his fidelity by dangerous tasks, his decorum by filling him with wine, his morality by placing him in disreputable surroundings. Under the application of these 9 tests, the inferior man stands revealed." Cheng Kao Fu, on receiving his first appointment, bowed his head. On receiving his second appointment, he hunched his back. On receiving his third appointment, he fell upon his face, walking away at the side of a path. Who would not try to be like him? Yet ordinary men on their first appointment become self-important. On their second, they give themselves heirs in their chariots. On their third, they call their own fathers by their personal names. Which of them can be compared with Xu Yu of old? There is nothing more fatal than intentional virtue, when the mind looks outwards. For by thus looking outwards, the power of introspection is destroyed. There are 5 sources of injury to virtue. Of these, that which aims at virtue is the chief. What is it to aim at virtue? Why a man who aims at virtue practices what he approves and condemns what he does not practice? There are 8 causes of failure, 3 certain elements of success. There are 6 sources of strength and weakness. Beauty, a long beard, size, height, robustness, grace, courage, daring. These 8. in which men surpass their fellows, are therefore passports to failure. Modesty, compliance, humility, these three are sure roads to success. Wisdom manifests itself in the external. Courage makes itself many enemies. Charity and duty towards one's neighbor incur many reproaches. To him who can penetrate the mystery of life, all things are revealed. He who can estimate wisdom at its true value is wise. He who comprehends the greater destiny becomes himself part of it. He who comprehends the lesser destiny reigns himself to the inevitable. A man who has been to see the Prince of Sung and had been presented with 10 chariots was putting on airs in the presence of Chuang Tzu. At Hoshang, said the letter, there was a poor man who supported his family by plaiting rushes. One day his son dived into the river and got a pearl worth 1,000 ounces of silver. The father bade him fetch a stone and smash it to pieces, explain that he could only have got such a pearl very deep down from under the nose of a dragon, which must have been asleep, and he said he was afraid that when the dragon waked, the boy would have a poor chance. Now the state of Sung is deeper than a deep river, and the Prince of Sung is fiercer than a dragon. To get these chariots, you must have caught him asleep, and when he wakes, you will be ground to powder. Some prince having invited Chuang Tzu to enter his service, Chuang Tzu said in reply to the envoy, "Sir, have you ever noticed a sacrificial ox? It is bedecked with ribbons and fares sumptuously, but when it becomes to be slaughtered for the temple, would it not gladly exchange places with some neglected calf?" When Chuang Tzu was about to die, his disciples expressed a wish to give him a splendid funeral. But Chuang Tzu said, "With heaven and earth for my coffin and shell, with the sun, moon, and stars as my burial regalia, and with all creation to escort me to the grave, are not my funeral paraphernalia ready to hand? And had he not high honor, the hillside for his pay, to lie in state while angels wait, with stars for tapers tall? And the dark rock pines like nodding plums above his bier to wave, and God's own hand in that lonely land to lay him in the grave?" "We fear," argued the disciples, "lest the carrion kite should eat the body of our master." To which Chuang Tzu replied, "Above ground I shall be food for kites, below I shall be food for mole crickets and ants. Why rob one to feed the other?" If you adopt as absolute a standard of evenness which is so only relatively, your result will not be absolutely even. If you adopt as absolute a criterion of right which is so only relatively, your results will not be absolutely right. Those who trust to their senses become slaves to objective existences. Those alone who are guided by their intuitions find the true standard. So far are the senses less reliable than the institutions. Yet fools trust to their senses to know what is good for mankind, with alas, but external results.